Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So welcome to this sessions. So my name is Li Haobing. So this sessions is for a Master of Science programs for the Maritime Technology and Management. So I'm academic director of this program. Okay, so now I will spend 20 minutes, around 20 or 30 minutes to go through with you some introductions about this program. But before that, I want to give you a short talk about this topic of the adventure of the digital twinning for the next generation ports, right? To talk about some background of for us offering this program. Okay, so I think for maybe some of you may know that this program compared to the other Master of Science programs is quite new, yeah, because we just have the first batch of the students graduating from this program. So now in the August, we are going to have the second cohort. But actually, I want to mention that before we are offering this Master of Science program, actually we have the long term of the research activities in this domain, in this area. And then also because of what we studied, what we research in this domain, so we decide that there is a need for us to offer a Master of Science program to train a skilled personnel to provide a more qualified manpower for this industry in Singapore. Okay, so for myself, I mean, besides serving as academic directors of this program, I'm also serving as a co-directors of the research center called the Center of Excellence in Modeling and Simulation for Next Generation Ports. And also, I'm also the research track leaders in the Center for Maritime Studies. Yeah, actually, I forgot to mention that this program is jointly offered by the Department of the Industrial and Systems Engineering and Management and the Center of the Maritime Studies in NUS. Okay, so as you know that Singapore is actually play a very important role in the world in the maritime industries. So actually we are the global maritime hub. So, but maybe you might not know exactly that how important Singapore is in this maritime industry. So here I use this slide to briefly give you a quick pictures about how important we are. So if you look at the number of the containers go through each countries, right? So if you rank all the countries based on this amount of the container throughput, we can see that, right, Singapore is just ranked at the number 3 behind China and the United States, right? So this is the data which we collected from the 2017, but I think this year is not much difference from here. So you can actually compare the size of these 3 countries and also look at how difference about on the number of the containers we're handling. So you may start to be surprised about how this very tiny red dot on the Earth is able to manage the so many so large amount of the containers, right? So let's look at the reason. So we are also quite interested to look into these reasonings. So we look into the histories like 14th to 18th centuries. Singapore become important in the maritime industries, maybe because of the geographical locations of us. We're actually located in the very a southeast point, right, in the whole Asian continent. So whenever there is a transportation needed between the east and the west, right, then the people when they are taking the sailboats, right, then they need to stop overs here for several months, right, waiting for the change of the monsoon seasons. So that's why the people are start to accumulate in these areas, right? The boom, the certain kind of the economies in this area. So this is actually the reason for us to become important, not only Singapore, but actually this area become the important history. Then when we look into the few hundred years later, right, for example, 17th or 19th centuries, Singapore was important because of the maybe the conflict, right? We can say the conflict between the different superpowers in the world, right? So if you look at the location of Singapore, right, we just located in the a middle point of the boundaries between the British colonial and also the Netherlands, the Dutch colonials. So this was reason why Singapore was important in the 17th and 19th centuries. But we can see that all of this actually is past tense, meaning that now when we look at Singapore's become important 20th centuries, right? The reason is actually very different because the world has changed a lot. We are no longer taking the sailboat, right? They do not really have this conflict between the superpowers looking after their colonies, right? Those era has already passed. But now in the 20th century, actually we are starting this containerizations era. So the Singapore because of become the play a more important roles in this is actually because we have successfully captured the trend of the containerizations in the past few decades. So here actually I list several figures for you to feel that how fast the Singapore's actually responds to these trends. For example, like we look at the first containers, one was the first container, modern container bonds, actually it's in the year of 1956. Right, but you can see that immediately after that, 1957, right, so Singapore have launched this commissions of inquiry to evaluate the key elements in the container eras. We look at what kind of the change will this containerization bring to the port activity, port equipment, and the way to organize the port, right? Then just a few years later, you can see that it's only within a 10 years time, right? So Singapore start to nominate PSA. So I think now it's quite famous, right? So it's actually nominated in the 1964. You compare to I mean, the year of the first modern container was born, right? It's only like less than 10 years, right? Then we look at 1965, we have the drone port. This is also another important port in Singapore, which is to support the development of the drone industrial estate. So here you can see that this is the speed of the response of the Singapore's response to the containerizations era. Then if you look at the bonding of the Singapore, right, the modern country, you can see that independent of Singapore is only 1965. So this is the even after where the PSA was formed. So here is actually to show you that how important of these maritime industries, how Singapore actually they play a role and why is the reason and how fast we're actually responding to this change of the containerizations era. Then we look at the certain development of the Singapore's, right, in these maritime technologies. So we can see that Singapore actually has remained ourselves as one of the most advanced players in this industry, in these sectors, by always introducing and adopting latest technologies, right? So here you can see that these are TriNet systems and also like a PortNet. And these are all the kind of the IT systems which we have incorporated to improve the efficiencies of how we manage the port operations in Singapore. And also if you look at these AGVs, right? So we actually start to investigate how to use these autonomous automatic guided vehicles, actually all the way starting from the 1990s, right? So you can say that we actually moved much earlier and much faster if you compare to the other countries. And then now if you look at these pictures, it's actually the construction of the new TUAS container terminals, right? So now that Singapore, we are actually building our new mega container port to support our future developments. So you can see that the success of the Singapore, we should say that partially because of that we have successfully captured the trend of containerization. But nowadays, you can see that not only the containerization, but also facing some new challenges, especially when we look into an era of the digitalization. So it's important for us to look at when we step into this new era of the digitalizations, how can we continue to develop in this maritime industry to keep us always advanced in these sectors. So that's why we're thinking that it will be necessary for us to do some research in this area. And also importantly is that we need to convert some of the research outcome, which is knowledge and the skills, right, to train and teach the students and train a more qualified personnel, the workforce, right, to prepare for the future challenge in these industries. So just to share with you some of the interesting problems we faced, for example, like the port design, right? So we actually need to consider that for the future port we're going to build, right? So when it's become the fully automated, right? When the size, when the scale become much larger compared to the past, right? So how can we design these port terminals? And also, when we are building the models, right, for to analyze the future ports, right? So we are not only let human beings to interact with the design, but we also want to apply, for example, the AI technologies to automatically to find out what is the best designs for our future port, right? So we need to design a more powerful computer software tools for us to do so. And also not only for the designing of the port, but we also need to investigate how efficient we can operate the port by introducing the better algorithm, the faster, the operational rules, right? To make sure that the handling of the cargoes of the containers can be faster, so that we can let those vessels to move through Singapore in the most efficient manners. And also we want to look at the balance between the efficiencies of using our land, because we know that Singapore is very small, compare with and also like a trade-off, find a trade-off with how fast we should move those cargoes. So we need to find a trade-off between the space efficiencies with the handling efficiencies. So that's why we will look into kind of the stack reshuffling problem to look at how should we stack those containers in the container yard. And also, as mentioned that, right, so we have studied this AGV problems from very earlier. So that's why we also build certain models for us to investigate the behaviors of those AGVs and how to design and plan those transponders, meaning those sensors on the ground, so that we can let those equipment to move in the most reliable way. And then not only the container terminals, we're also looking into the general cargo ports in Singapore, because you know that Singapore, we do not really have our own natural resources. So all the building material, for example, like steel, cement, etc., right? And even the food, we need to import from the other countries. So that's why we have this drone port now serving as a multi-purpose port for us to handle the different kind of the cargoes, which is for the Singapore's domestic consumption. So that's why we also, beside the containers, we also need to look into how to efficiently handle those multiple types of the different cargoes, right? So this actually require the analysis of the large amount of the data for large varieties of the different cargoes. And not only the port, right? We also have a lot of the facilities, right, to support the port operation or port industry or maritime industries. So you can see that in Singapore, actually we have the many logistic companies, right, which is actually they're actually moving the cargoes around the different part of the world, but they're actually treating Singapore as a hub, right? So they set up their warehouse here. So we also are facing this problem of how to design a better warehouse and how to better operate those warehouse with high efficiencies, so that we can keep tracking different industries to set up their facilities here, right? And use Singapore as a hub to serve the surrounding regions. And you can see that just now we talk about different problems that we are facing, but we can see that there's a certain methodologies, right? We can apply, there's a common methodologies we can apply to solve those different kind of problems. For example, like machine learning, as many of you might know a little bit and might be interested to investigate, right? So we can use the machine learning technologies to look into a historical data to conclude the trend, and also that they can provide the information for us to predict and forecast what will happen in the future. But this is not enough, right? Because learning can only tell us what have been happened in the past. So we also need the optimization for us to know that under different conditions, under a given like a condition or parameters, so how can we make the best decisions? So this best decision might not be necessary happening in the past, right? But in the future, we want to keep improving the way the qualities of the decisions we made, right? So that's why we also need optimizations methodologies, right, for the decision makings. And beside this, we also need a simulation, right? So simulation actually help us to see that for a scenario which have never happens in the past, right? We want to evaluate so how good these decisions can be, or how good those designs will perform, right? So you can see that by having a more advanced solutions for all the problems are introduced in the last few slides. So we need to find the integrated solutions by combining these different methodologies together and apply to a domain of the applications. So in our case, is that we want to apply this to the maritime and also the port industries. So this is actually designed, okay, in this program of the Master of Science in Maritime Technology and Management. Okay, so what can you expect from this program? So first one is that we will introduce to you the necessary knowledge, skill, and the background about the what this maritime industry needs, right? So you can you can learn about those complex needs of the what the different companies are needing, and what kind of the tools or techniques are currently applied in this industry. And also, the second will focus on the knowledge of the digitalizations and the transformation of the maritime sectors. So we'll not only tell you that how this industry are operating now, okay, for the current time, but we also need to introduce to you that what are the technologies available now so that you can apply those technologies in the future times, right? So this is the second outcome you can expect, right? Then with this one, then we will provide an environment to nurture the next generation maritime expert, right? To trying to connect these needs from the industry to these technologies, right? So we will provide opportunities, for example, like internship and also like a term project, right? So for you to practice. So we believe that this will be a effective way, right, to train the qualified personnel for the future needs of this industry. So there's several the special features of this program. So the first, we can see that although there might be a different kind of the master programs in the related to the maritime industries, but this is actually the first master program in Singapore which will focus on the maritime technology and the digitalization, right? So meaning that if you're interested in the maritime industry as well as the technologies of the digitalizations, then this might be the only choice, the only choice you can find in Singapore. Then the second one is that this program is not only supported by the academia or educators, but also we have the strong support from the industries and the regulators. So why this is the case? Because as I mentioned, right, in the past 10 years, we have accumulated sufficient experience doing the industry-oriented research work. And also we were helping the government to answer some of the important questions for the country. So that's why we have established a very good relationship with both the industry and the regulators in Singapore. For example, like a PSA Singapore and also the MPA, which is the Maritime and the Port Authorities of the Singapore. And in this program, we will have a deep focus on the programming methodologies, statistics, machine learning, and data mining and analytics. So those are all the methodologies that we have applied in our past years of research. And in this program, we are not only transferring the knowledge to you, but we also provide opportunities for you to interact with the industrial people as well as maybe the people from the governments, right? So in that case, we for this purpose, actually we're providing the opportunities for the seminars, workshop, and industrial visits. So these are all the things you can expect from this program. Then because of that, you are able to build up this networking network with different people from the different domains. And one special features for the full-time students is that we will provide 15 weeks of the internship opportunities for you. So in that case, every one of you will be able to have these opportunities to work in carefully selected companies, right? To get some first-hand of the information of what this maritime industry in Singapore looks like. Then for those who are actually taking the part-time, we will offer a team project so that you are able to work out a relevant topic, right, with your teammates in our programs. So this is a design of the modules for our programs. You can see from here, right? So we have totally the 7 core modules. There's no electives, meaning that you don't need to worry that which module you should choose or not, right? You just need to follow this list of the modules. By completing all of them, then you can actually receive your degree. So you can see that these modules, 2 of them are starting with the IE, is actually offered by the Industrial System Engineering and Management departments, right, on the data analytics for industrial engineers and apply the programming for industrial system. So those are more like related to the generic methodologies, right? But those starting from the MTM is especially offered by our Master of Science program, right? So which is more related to the applications to these specific domains of the maritime industries, also including the port and logistic and the supply chains. Yeah, because this is actually quite relevant, actually integrate together as a whole ecosystems. Okay, so through those modules, we'll talk about the background of the industries as well as how those generic methodologies or technologies can be applied to these specific domains. So the last modules is what I mentioned just now. For the full-time students, we'll have the industrial attachment program. And for the part-time students, we'll offer the modules for the maritime team project. Okay, so here is a list of all the companies which actually partner with us to offer us this, offer all the students these internship opportunities, right? You can see that there's many famous names you can see from here, including like a PSA, and also, I mean, for those from China, you may know this CCCC, right? And also ZPMC. So they are all like important companies which set up their branch companies in Singapore. Okay, so here is about the academic admissions requirements. So to be admitted to this program, then it is required to have the undergraduate degrees with honors or its equivalent from the good universities. Right, so we'll prefer is from the STEM background, meaning that the science, technologies, engineering, and the mathematics. Right, so this background will be preferred. Yeah, because we can say that we'll focus on the digitalization technologies. And for those who do not have the honor degree, right, don't worry, right? So if you're interested, you can still apply. Then we will assess you based on the average score during your courses. And if there's a need, we'll require you to attend the interview sessions. So we need to make sure, the main purpose is for us to make sure that you have the sufficient capabilities to fulfill all your requirements from this program and graduate successfully. Okay, then if any applicants will have the strong technical backgrounds, for example, you have gone through a certain project in the past, right? Or maybe have at least 2 years of working experience in the maritime sectors, then this will be considered as an advantage for your applications. Okay, then alternatively, right? So if you do not have the undergraduate degree, but if you are the holders of the certificate of the competencies 1, okay, COC 1, okay, so this is a certificate in the maritime and shipping industries. So you can also apply our program, okay, if you without the undergraduate degrees. So this is COC 1 will also be considered. You can also apply our programs. For the English proficiency requirements, right? So this is common and similar to all the other master degree programs, right? So 85 for TOEFL and also the 6.0 for academic. Okay, so this is the English requirement. And for the curriculum structures, so the full-time students, right? So just now we have talked about these 7 modules. So you are expected to finish these 7 modules within 1 year's time. Yeah, but if you want to extend to more than 1 year, this is also possible, right? And then for the part-time students, you can finish your programs within 2 years' time. Okay, so this will be the ideal length of the time for you to complete our programs, right? So if you're interested to apply, you can go through this link, or maybe you can take a picture of this QR code so that later you can access this URL. Okay, so just want to mention that the online application, this is the only channel for you to make applications to our program. Okay, then about the tuition fee. So we have the 58,000 for both international students and the Singapore citizens and Singapore PR. But for the Singapore citizen and Singapore PR, you can actually consider the financial support from the MPA. Okay, so you can consider these opportunities to subsidize your tuition fee. So this is the only advantage for Singapore citizens and the PR. Okay, so today we're also happy to invite our students from the first cohort, Mr. Parameters, Andreas. So welcome. So he's actually already graduated from our program and now is working in the ABS, American Bureau of the Shipping, right? So with a particular focus on the decarbonization. So I think today we are very happy to ask him to share with us about his experience in our program. Yeah, maybe I just can greeting to all the audience.
Yeah, hi, Mr. Lee. Thank you for having me today. It's a pleasure.
So, yeah, maybe here I have some questions for you. Yeah, maybe okay. I just ask on behalf of the audience. Maybe the first one is, yeah, can you provide a quick introduction about yourself? Okay, besides what have been stated here.
Yeah, sure. As you said, I am Andreas Parameters, MTM student from the first intake. I came from Greece to NUS last August, and I was attached to American Bureau of Shipping for my internship earlier this year as a part of the MTM program. And I was very fortunate to be offered a permanent position in the same company upon my graduation. I'm currently working as a sustainability analyst for the American Bureau of Shipping with a particular focus on decarbonization.
Okay, thank you. Then next question I want to ask is, why did you want to pursue the programs in Singapore?
Well, that's a great question. Actually, this program checked a lot of boxes when I was looking to select a master's program. Starting from a high level, the opportunity to study maritime in Singapore is a unique experience since you get to learn and meet people that are in the heart of a maritime hub. Then regarding NUS, is well known that is amongst the top universities, and thus I knew that the program would be well structured and future-proof. And lastly, the MTM program itself looked really different than the other maritime masters that I have seen, and that intrigued me. I understood pretty quickly that it was built based on the industry's current needs and future trends and challenges.
Okay, yeah, thanks. So could you share with us some of the insights to the maritime industry and the relevance that these MSc programs has to the industry?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, as we described perfectly before, it is no secret that the maritime industry is under a transition phase. The need for decarbonization, the new IMO regulations, and the emerging trends of digitalisation and green financing, all of them add to the already complex industry of shipping. This master touches upon all the key challenges and opportunities of the maritime landscape, but at the same time provides students with a strong foundation regarding the fundamentals of flight, port operations, and ship management.
Okay, so I think maybe some of the audience here might also consider MBA or some other traditional master's program. So for you, for your case, why did you take this master's program instead of the more traditional ones or the MBA? And what was the draw to come to Singapore to take this program instead of doing it in other countries? Yeah.
Well, for me personally, the reason to choose this program instead of a traditional master or MBA course was mainly because it gave me the chance to specialize in the areas of my interest without spending time on courses that I would have most likely already done in my bachelor's degree, since it was related to business and finance. Apart from that, it played a big role for me that the fellow students that I would meet. I knew that by embarking in such a program, I would meet people who are intrigued by the maritime industry and share the same passion as I do, but from different angles of the industry. And that was in fact true because some of them were from port operations, others were working as ship brokers, while we even had some experience in classification societies. So overall, this mix of great people, I think it's difficult to find in traditional master programs. Now, regarding Singapore as a place to study, the maritime and maritime-related companies that are based here, and the World BGS ports, the upcoming TUAS port, all create a maritime ecosystem where innovation regarding maritime blossoms. So normally for me, I wanted to learn about the things that amaze me and that I am interested in the place where these great advancements take place in Singapore.
Yeah, thank you. So I think just now you also introduced that we understand you have been offered a position, right, with your internship or company. I think that is quite nice. So can you share with us some of your experience in this maritime industrial attachment program, and what was your job scope as an intern, and which company? I mean, it was. Maybe you can provide a more introduction of the company.
Yes, of course. Well, I was fortunate enough to have my internship at the American Bureau of Shipping, which is a leading classification society and has as a mission to promote the security of life, property, and the natural environment through the development and verification of standards for the design, construction, and maintenance of marine and offshore assets. But given the current needs, organizations like ABS and the other classification societies have developed departments that help clients deal with the requirements for sustainability and decarbonization. That being said, I did my industrial attachment in the Global Sustainability Center that ABS has established in Singapore. My role was mainly to provide solutions through data analytics for clients to comply with upcoming regulations, as well as help them meet the responsibilities towards moving closer to a greener shipping. With the rest of the team, we conducted sustainability reports for maritime companies. We helped establish the decarbonization strategies. And apart from that, we conducted research and developed our annual outlook to help propel the industry towards a more environmentally friendly shipping.
Okay, so maybe I just have a last question for you is what other advice do you have for our participant today?
So some of them are regarding the program and some regarding NUS. To start off, I think that if you already work in the industry, I think it's important to evaluate how this program can help you progress and contribute more to the industry. If you are not, however, working in the industry, it's good to spend some time to think what would you like your role to be in the maritime world and evaluate how this program can help you achieve this. So overall, know why you are applying to the MTM program. Now, as a second advice I would give in the case that you embark to this MTM Masters, be well organized from the beginning since the learning curve is steep. But keep in mind that your progress will be equally impressive. And finally, regarding NUS that I was privileged to study, make the most out of it because it's a life-changing experience and it's a great privilege to be in NUS and to communicate with the professors, with the fellow students and all that.
Okay, that's good. So I think maybe I will leave the rest of time for the audience to ask their questions. But before that, I want to also introduce Gladys Miss Cole, who is our Associate Director of Center of Maritime Studies. So later, if you have any related answers, she might be able to provide you a better answers. Okay, yeah, so yeah, feel free to ask a question to any one of us.
Okay, thank you, also, Dr. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Lee. So I've also posted in the group chat, the chat box, that if you have any question, you can post it here. Or otherwise, you can take note of my email address and you can send an email to me after the Zoom session. Yeah. Dr. Lee, you have something to say just now?
No, I want to say exactly the same thing as you mentioned.
Okay, right. It's a short session today, so we hope that it will give the participants a good quick snapshot of the program. So if you do have any question, do remember to just email to us to have it addressed. Okay, we'll be happy to help to answer your questions. Yeah. If there is no further questions, I think maybe Adriel can share one or two more things about your experience as our MTM students.
Yeah, maybe ask another question is what do you think, which skill do you think is actually helping you to enable you to be hired in a company?
That's a great question, and I'm glad you asked. The first thing that comes to mind is the knowledge regarding the current challenge of maritime. Through our lectures, our assignments, group projects, one can develop a clear understanding of the main challenges that stakeholders face in today's industry. Thus, you can be able to provide value based on your knowledge. Now moving towards more technical aspects, the exposure to maritime data analytics also played an important role. I would like to add to this point that before the beginning of the program, I had near zero experience in programming and data analytics. But due to the course's intensity, I was able to attain a good level in data analytics in a couple of months, and thus I was able to contribute to the team's work in this area that it is today is necessary for many industries. Because providing interpretable and applicable results from analytics and models that can be used in our reports and services was key in becoming an asset for my employer. So to sum up, the challenges we identified, the technical skills in data analytics to help provide solutions, and the general knowledge for the complexities of maritime were the things that we learned in the MTM program, and all of them helped me in being able to be hired in an organization like ABS.
Okay, thank you. Because of the time limit, that's all that we can share. But if you have any question, feel free to drop us an email, right? So hope you are interested to apply our program. Okay, thank you very much. So I think that's all. That's the end for today. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.